Good morning. So it has been a few days since our last episode and lots has been going on. I have lots to share with you guys. This episode is going to be another one of these sort of, sharing the challenges that I've been going through with my language learning process and, talking about what's been working well for me and how I'm just continuing to try to improve my process going forward. Because I think that's a large part of what this series is about. Of course, I want it to be entertaining and I want to bring you guys on my adventures and also address very specific topics. But I think the other part of this whole series is definitely a constant effort to, observe the challenges, what's working, what doesn't work, and just continually trying to improve the language learning process in our individual contexts, right? So today we're going to be discussing some of that. I'm going to go to the coffee shop downtown now, so my ride is just about ready. Yeah. Alright, so here I am downtown. I've got my lovely coffee and I'm here at Black Bear. Actually, you can see little Black Bear is here. It's really nice. It's kind of become my daily spot. I always really like becoming a local wherever I can, and it's actually become a really interesting language learning place for me because there is a guy that comes here every day who is a French speaker. So we actually speak in French every day. It's really cool. He was a diplomat in Paris for several years, and then he was in different parts of Africa, and he's been all over the place. So, and then there was a girl that works here who used to live in Italy, so we get to speak Italian. So it's actually become, of all places, in small town, Hendersonville, North Carolina, in the mountains, I have a more diverse linguistic day than when I was in Charlotte, which is quite a international city. So it's interesting. And so I've really been looking forward to talking to you guys about what's been going on, because I have to say it's been quite challenging. You guys already know about this. I've mentioned it in the last few episodes, but I have such an enormous amount of studying that I have to do for web development. And you know what? I guess I can just tell you right now. I was gonna try to think of some really cool way to say it, but I got the job in San Francisco. I can't believe it. Cheers. So I got the job. I'm kind of lost for words. It's been a few days. I was trying to figure out what would be a really cool and powerful way to share that news with you guys. I just don't know how else to do it. I'm lost for words. For me, this is like a dream job. It's one of those situations where, again, I applied for this job really just as a way to get in contact with the recruiter. And I asked her if she would just give me a 15-minute phone call to give me some advice to help me find lower level jobs that I could actually be a candidate for. And she thought I was a good candidate. And so every step of the interview process, I was convinced they would finally find out, that I'm not a good enough candidate. I've been learning, it's been 10 months since I started learning web design and development. 10 months, no professional experience. And 1 year ago today, I would have never imagined that I was even capable of doing that kind of job, of learning how to code, how to develop software or web applications. So to go from that in 10 months with no formal education or training or experience to applying for this crazy job, for me at least, in San Francisco, it's not a entry-level job. I'm not going to be, spending all my time, building a button, for example, for the first few weeks, and it's for me at least, it's a fully, totally legitimate web developer position with some really exciting functions and really exciting tasks. And sorry, there's so many loud motorcycles in this town. And I feel like I'm gonna be like genuinely an important part of the team and have a really important role in that organization. So to go from zero to that has just been overwhelming in a great way. And so right now I have to spend like almost all day every day preparing for that job, right? Because it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for me. And I have felt like I know I'll get through it. I know I'll learn as fast as anybody else could. But my thought was, what I do in the 3 weeks that I have been given before starting the job will determine if I arrive and I'm like drowning with my face above water and I manage to get through it, or whether I arrive and I can be confident and enjoy it, right? It'll still be hard, but I'll be prepared. So I've been preparing a lot, probably 10 hours a day on web development study. So it's been very challenging to fit in my language studies at the level I would like to, right? And what's interesting is I keep going in and out of rhythms. So I got into a really good rhythm with German in the beginning. And honestly, I was doing more German than Portuguese. The funny thing is now I've gotten into an amazing rhythm with Portuguese. Like I feel great about my Portuguese studies and I'm loving it, but I'm struggling with German. So it's really interesting to see. So the biggest challenges I've had, I think, have just been finding that consistent rhythm with both languages. And that's a challenge. I mean, that's the fact is it's much harder to study 2 languages simultaneously, especially when I have Spanish in the mix, than studying just one. But I also know I can do it because I have done this before many times, and that's the personality that I have, is that I know that I can figure this out. And so, but it's just been interesting to see which techniques have worked really well. And I think that a great lesson I've learned from this experience the last few weeks is that if you're going to study multiple languages simultaneously, it's very important to have the structure that I talked about actually in one of my earlier videos about maintaining languages. I'll put a link to the video here, but it's very important to have enough flexibility to where you're not too rigid, but you have to give yourself enough structure, because if you just study what you feel like studying in the moment, you typically tend to start going in certain directions, right? So the more you study Portuguese, for example, well, the more you're going to want to study Portuguese, and so you'll start to leave the other language that you're studying. So that's why I think it's extremely important for me right now to develop a bit more structure, in a sense that I need to decide, for example, well, mornings are for Portuguese, evenings are for German, or whatever. It doesn't have to be based on that, but I think I have to have enough structure to where I guarantee myself a division of time between the 2 languages. Because like I said, if you allow yourself to just, well, you know, I'll study whatever I feel like studying, that's fine, and you should study what you enjoy. But like I said, I have personally found that even as a seasoned polyglot, I have a lot of experience doing this now, and I am also probably as disciplined as anyone you could find. And even for me, if I just allow myself to solely rely on what I'm in the mood for, I will end up developing a bias. So I find that having that structure in my approach and my strategy, it protects me from that natural human tendency to sort of develop these biases, right? So right now I have a bias towards Portuguese. Previously I had a bias towards German. So I think honestly that's the biggest takeaway. I found that time chunks have been excellent. So for example, dividing up my Portuguese and German Babel lessons in between, like interleaving them with my web development studies, has been extremely helpful, because it guarantees that I get X amount of studying done every day. The mornings have just been absolutely golden. I will never stop talking about that. The mornings have been golden, and And then definitely just a certain willpower. There have been many days where I was like, you know what? Like, for example, last night, it was 8:30 p.m. and I was really close to reaching a pretty big milestone with my web development studies. I just finished learning the fundamentals of Python. So in like 10 days, I just learned how to actually write code in my second programming language. Maybe less than 10 days, I don't know, it's not been very long at all. But so I was really close to finishing a milestone, but I knew, I was like, I really need to study my German. And I was, for a second, I thought to myself, you know what, I'll skip it, I'll do German tomorrow. But I had to tell myself, I was like, no, you know what, like, look, I can reach that milestone in the morning with Python, right? Like, it's not gonna change anything just doing an extra hour now. But if I don't do my German, that might change something, because then I start to lose my momentum. So I had to make that choice. And you know what? I made the choice. I went into my German studies and I had a beautiful, happy evening. And then when I went to bed, I had a smile on my face. I felt amazing because I got loads of Portuguese done yesterday. And then I got my hour and a half of German done last night. So those are things that have worked for me. The mornings have been great. Time chunks have been excellent. And simply having the willpower to make choices like that one last night and say, you know what, I am tired. You know what, there are other things I would like to do. But making the choice to say, but no, I have a commitment. I'm gonna study my German. That's helped. Now, again, the biggest lesson and takeaway from this last week or so, or the last month, and I think, honestly, the biggest lesson so far from this series for me is, again, it's my own advice. And this is why I wanted to do this series, because by doing this Polyglot Journey series, you have to, like, I have to prove to you that my advice is valid, right? I'm essentially following all my own advice from my book and from my other videos and all my experiences. And it's cool because I'm finding out that, like, you know, none of us are perfect. So we can learn a lesson about life. We can learn a lesson about language learning. It doesn't mean we're actually practicing all those lessons all the time, right? I think life is a constant process. And the great thing about life, if you're proactive and self-aware, is that you always get the opportunity to reset, right? As long as you're aware and you actually make an effort to evaluate yourself constantly. I think the problem comes when you become complacent and you stop observing yourself. So the biggest takeaway is my own advice from previous, which is that I need to take all the momentum I have right now, but I need to structure things better. So I need to guarantee myself that I will divide my time more or less equally between German, Portuguese, and my Spanish is fine, but I also need to add more structure to that too. But that will come probably in 1 or 2 weeks. So there we go. That's the episode for today. Really enjoyed the update discussion, and I have 6 more days here before moving for my new job. So cheers, and I'll see you in the next episode.